Hey, what's going on, YouTube? My name's Kevin, aka Gospel Gambit, and thank you for joining me on my chess channel. This is my first video, and I'm super excited to be sharing some of the games that I play on my live stream here to you guys on YouTube. On this channel, we're going to be going over game reviews from an account I hopefully will be climbing the Rapid Ladder on lichess.com, as well as possibly sharing some beginner type of chess coaching in the future. So please like, subscribe, and let's get right into the game. Now this first game is from our third day of playing on this new account. It's Gospel Gambit on Lichess if you try to find it. And we're going to be playing the white side of the pieces versus Nordviter, who's going to be playing the black side. At this point, we're 1826 of our provisional rating, and Nordviter is sitting at 1909 with his rating. This was a 15-minute game with 10-second increments on both sides. Now, a lot of the openings you're going to see on this channel are going to be gambit openings from the white side, and then more solid or sharp openings from the black side, Carl Khan, as well as Sicilian defense, and that sort of nature. So the Evans Gambit opens up e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. Now this is the Italian opening if you go into the normal main lines, but at the rating that I'm at, I really enjoy the Evans Gambit and the different gambits that can come out of this e4, knight f3, and bishop c4 opening. If black ends up playing this knight f6, I go into the Scotch Gambit from the white side. So it gives me two pretty dynamic openings to play from with this setup from white. In this game though, we see bishop c5 and b4. This is the opening setup for the Evans Gambit, whether accepted or declined. And black has a few different options. Black can accept it, which we will see in this game. Black can decline the pawn and go back to b6, or he can even decline and go back to e7. So black takes. Our immediate follow-up is always c3, attacking the bishop. And then this is another big branching off point. You have a few different schools of thought. You have bishop to a5, keeping this pin on the king after white tries to play a move like d4. You have bishop back to c5, getting back along the diagonal that attacks the f2 pawn and putting pressure on this d4 square, making it difficult for white to push d4. Or you have bishop to e7, and that's the more professional approach as you get higher up in the rankings. It becomes a little bit more difficult for white to find dynamic moves against this, but I'm sure we'll see some games of this bishop e7 line in the future. My opponent ends up going with bishop back to c4 and believing that with three attackers, he can defend the d4 square. And we let him as we go right for d4 immediately. Black takes, and we just castle. Now here, black has a few different options. Black can take the pawn on c3, and this opens up a common tactic that the Evans Gambit can deliver. We sack on f7 with our bishop, getting a pawn back, and play this queen to d5, forking the king and the undefended bishop on c5. If black moves back, we pick up the bishop, and usually you get an opening or a position like this. Our opponent in the game did not take the second pawn and instead played the move d6. And here we are able to recapture one of the pawns that we sacrificed in the opening. So we elect to do so, attacking this bishop and asking him a question. Does he want to come back down to b4, watching over this e1 square where we want to get a rook as white? Or does he want to back up to b6 and stay along this diagonal that's pointing towards our king? Black decides to drop back to b6. And from the white side, we have 3 or 4 different options. The most common, d5 and knight c3. A lot of the moves that I've been studying Of course, no master at this Evans Gambit opening, but National Master Hans Schut on Chessable has two wonderful courses. He's got a beginner's course and he's got a mastery course of the Evans Gambit, both with the amount of lines that are easy to understand and can get you into the course right away for relatively cheap for any of my viewers out there. In the beginner course, he recommends the move d5, and in his advanced course, he recommends the move knight to c3. We play the move d5 as that's the main course that I've been studying at the moment. And here we see the reason why he recommends this move. In 65% of games, close to 10,000 games, Black plays this move knight to e5. And it really allows us to open up the position after knight e5, capture, capture. And you have the moves either bishop to a3, bishop to b2, putting pressure here. Eventually we might have ideas of f4, get this knight over, and we can have a big attack with our bishops towards the king. We do not get that move in this game. Instead, we get the second move, knight to e7. So at this point, this is where my preparation ended, and I had to start thinking for good moves for myself, which everyone gets to once you start studying opening lines. It's good to know, obviously, why you're playing the move, and then at the end of the line, what does that position do? What are you setting yourself up for? Are you going to be having a dynamic attack? Are you looking to set it up for a winning endgame where you have to convert a pawn-up advantage or a slight positional advantage? So in this game, I was looking at the board. I see this really great diagonal open that I would like to get my bishop on, as well as an uncastled king that has at least one move, two moves before they're castled. So in the game, I do look to go bishop to b2. Now, and you can see that is the most played move here. This is the Lichess player database. Now, the computer recommends the immediate e5 to attack the center and open up the game while Black's king is still in the middle of the board. And looking back on it, that's definitely what I should have done here, as I will play e5 eventually in the game, but it's just not at the right moment. So bishop b2, and I get the opportunity to see f6. Now immediately alarm bells are ringing in my head that this should be a good move for me as white. Black has just created a massive hole on the e6 square. They've opened up this h5 to e8 diagonal to the black king. He's still 2 moves away from castling, if not 3 moves away from castling on the queen side. And all of a sudden we have all these light squares that we get to play with as white attacking black's king. Now I do not create the best follow-up here. So the computer wants us to go right in for d4 into e6. And I did see this. Like I said, I did see this e6 square opening up, and I was thinking, how can I get a knight onto this square? I didn't want to play knight to d4, at least offhand right away, because it allows black to trade one of his pieces for our knight. And this black bishop isn't going to be able to contest one of our knights if we are able to get it to the e6 square. And if later on in the game a couple of these other pieces are dropped, why do I want to trade a knight for a bishop that can't contest us there? So then I started thinking, okay, well, I put this bishop on the b2 to h8 diagonal for a reason. How can I exploit it? Well, then I started looking at ideas of knight to g5, and that is the move I end up playing in the game. It is technically a losing move. It takes the evaluation from 0.8 to about negative 0.18, so almost a full piece difference when you look at it. But what were some of my ideas in this move? So I'll put it on the board. And first of all, I thought, okay, if black takes, what happens if queen h5 takes and here? And all of a sudden, I was like, okay, we are opening up this diagonal to the rook. But what if black just calmly blocks with the knight? We take, and knight to f6. I missed how sneaky these knights were with defending as well as attacking my queen. You would think, okay, you could pick up this g5 pawn, but black gets to take our e4 pawn, attacking our queen again. We're the ones attacking here, so we don't want to trade queens. We've already sacked one piece on g5 with the knight. So the computer technically recommends back to h5, but then with the knight back here, we're kind of lost with where we continue. If we just play a move like rook to g5, this subtle move, rook f7, hitting our bishop and protecting all these knights, is allows for a queen win of two of our pieces for the rook. And after takes, black is just going to have a bishop and knight versus a rook in the endgame. And the computer thinks that is a -3, so a full piece loss for us white here. So I missed that move, but our opponent blunders it right back. He plays this move, h5, stopping any ideas of getting our queen on this diagonal, because now if we take on h5, this rook's defending the h5 pawn. I said, okay. At this point, the computer wants us to put this knight onto e6, right? That's where we wanted to get that knight. And I did think about that. I was like, all right, we can put it right there. But then all of a sudden, we're trading a piece. We're doubling our pawns. Obviously, this pawn's pretty solid. Restricts the queen. But I think we're going to be losing that pawn eventually. So I just didn't like this idea of putting the knight directly on e6 right away here. And I thought, okay, this pawn's kind of weak. How do we attack it? It's on a light square. We have a light square bishop staring at a pawn here. What if we drop our bishop back to e2? And the computer likes this move. At fairly low depth, it says we're +1. And black plays what should be a losing move. So we just flip-flop. We were +1, then we were almost -2. And then from this h5 push, we go back to being +1, and then almost +3 here with this bishop. Now, how come? Well, in the game, I saw, okay, well, we're just going to win a pawn, right? That's what I was thinking, but in my head, I got a little quick here. So I took 3 minutes for this knight from f3 to g5 move, and I took less than 10 seconds to think about queen takes g4, losing all of my initiative. What have I just been talking about for the last couple minutes? Well, I want this bishop gone, and I want a knight here. So then why was I not thinking about moving the knight first and then picking up the pawn? It's very difficult for black to contest this knight. We're hitting the queen. We're going to pick up this pawn here. We have great attacking chances down the g file, and black's king is probably not going to be able to castle in the near future, if at all, this game. And if I just stopped and thought for 3 more minutes, like I did with what I thought was a good knight sacrifice, then I probably would have seen this. So instead, I take, and all of a sudden we are in a very dire situation. Pawn takes. I was like, okay, we're gonna not pick up the rook, but black's king is completely wide open. And this subtle move here, allowing black to have the opportunity to castle. And I kind of knew I was more than likely lost at this point. If we drop the bishop back, he's got more than enough defenders. It's almost impossible. We can't attack this rook with our queen. These squares are all covered, as well as black covering these squares. And at this point, I push e5. I'm like, all right, I need to open up the center and get after black's king. After push, takes, get my bishop back, black castles, and he's completely fine. Now, the rest of this game, there's not too much to note here. We try to not trade queens, and we do get back a little bit here, but unfortunately we're just down too much material and don't have enough pawns to convert. And in time trouble, I end up dropping my bishop, and at this point I resign. So an exciting opening, and actually my favorite opening. So more Evans Gambit is for sure to come here on the channel. And the more I learn, hopefully the more I'm able to attack these games correctly and take some wins off of the black pieces in the future. If you guys enjoyed this game, you can see more of games like this live at twitch.tv/gospelgambit. I'm live most afternoons for 4 to 5 hours. Come hang out, come say hi, drop a follow, ask questions, or you can reach out to me at my email if you're a brand new player to the game and would just like some introductory lessons. You can see the email there listed on the screen or down in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.